Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports. We got a big one for you here, all the way from New Zealand. The promoter of the WBO heavyweight champion of the world, Joseph Parker. Here's his promoter from Duco Events, Dave Higgins. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Lovely day here in Auckland today, and hello to everyone listening.
Fantastic, Dave. David, for those people who don't know who you are, just a brief overview as to who you are and what you do.
Right, so I'm the founder and director of a company called Duco Events. We've been going 14 years' time. We tried a whole lot of events, not just sport, celebrity stuff, football, tournaments, etc. But we promoted some boxers. I got into boxing promoting the last few fights. David Tua had a heavyweight sport exclusive world title. And following from that, we signed young Joseph Parker and for a 6-year term, and he's now, as you pointed out, heavyweight world champion, has WBO belt. And then we signed a young Australian welterweight named Jeff Horn, who's the current WBO welterweight world champion, having beaten Manny Pacquiao recently. So right now we only promote two boxers, Joseph Parker and Jeff Horn, and both are world champion. I don't know if that's been done before.
Well, it's brilliant. I mean, it's fantastic for New Zealand boxing. A lot of people assumed that David Tua, who was knocking everybody out and was one of my favorite fighters, would go on to become world heavyweight champion. What do you think it was that David Tua didn't really become world champion in the end?
Well, you're right. Tua actually knocked out 4 people who were world champions or held belts.
Yes.
One was Oleg Maskayev, Michael Moore, and Tassim Ruckman. He knocked them all out brutally. Just a combination of bad luck, bad timing, and then he ran into contractual problems. And really, it's a bit tragic because he earns a lot of money in the ring, and he should have been world champion. He certainly had the goods, but it didn't work out. That's boxing. It's bittersweet, and sometimes you get people like Anthony Joshua who have had a charmed rise without proper scrutiny and without being properly tested, and and he'll be set up for life. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah, we
have a charmed rise, and others that do it tough.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get onto the Anthony Joshua thing, and I want us to build up to that. Now, in terms of being a promoter in New Zealand, it surely must be more difficult for you, because I don't believe New Zealand boxing is your #1 sport, whereas in the UK, I believe it's one of the top sports. So how have you had to combat the difficulties of it not being the #1 sport in New Zealand?
Well, I've just got Bob Aaron ringing me, but I'll call him back after this interview.
Okay.
But anyway, look, you're right. Boxing didn't have much of a tradition in New Zealand. The rugby union is by far the biggest sport, and it doesn't have that sort of long history of the fan base following, like in say, the UK, where your granddad would take your dad to the boxing and your dad the son. And so, it's extraordinary how events sell in the UK. We've had to work very, very hard to build Joseph Parker up here. It's very difficult to get sponsorship, but it's changed a lot over 10 years since I started my David Tua. Back then it was hard to get media coverage. Now it's become a lot easier, and with a lot of hard work that's gone into explaining to the media and the public what boxing is about. And Joseph Parker now has a big fan base. In fact, he's the most Googled New Zealander of the last 2 years, so more Googled than any politician or prime minister, any All Black. #1 is Joseph Parker, and so that's it's getting easier over time. And our job now, because he's a superstar in New Zealand, our job is to make him famous in other markets, say the United States or the UK. I think the heavyweight scene is hot in the UK, so we try to build Joseph in the UK, and certainly, talking about Anthony Joshua helps do that. And we try and, when we get onto it, I'll explain. Everything we say is fact-based. And so Joseph hasn't said anything in relation to Joshua that's not based on fact. And I think that's what separates trash talk from provocative, real statements. Pointing out the someone's getting flat all the time in training, as we did with Joshua, it's very different to saying you're a bitch, you can't fight. And so our approach and Parker's approach is a fact-based, provocative but fact-based.
Now, you talk about being provocative and fact-based. We like that. We like that on BWTM Sports because we like to talk truth. We've had a lot of truth speakers in the past, people that tell it as it is and not try and butter things up or trying to spin things. There's a lot of promoters in the world today that are spin doctors. I'm sure you can understand that. So,
yeah, well, sorry,
go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, I think Joshua, I think he's such a big star, and it reads to me, I don't know, just it reads to me like he'll have a giant pan-European PR company devising him on media. And these PR companies, they're very corporate. I have little people in their 30s with communications degrees. They'll be working with brands like Porsche and Rolex, Nike, and they'll be working with sports stars like Federer and Lewis Hamilton, etc. But boxing's very different. And so it reads to me like Joshua probably has those PR companies, the PR company like that, those on media, and probably saying to him, look, you know, Lewis Hamilton's making 20 million quid a year on sponsorships outside of the sport. You can do the same. You've got to look this way, act this way, say the right things, be polished, don't be too provocative, whatever. And so I think we would rattle them. I don't think anyone's even quite. And the media have given him a soft ride. And so I don't think Joshua will be used to people stating the plain truth overtly, publicly, to do with his questionable chin. And also, he seems bothered that we're talking about money in public. And in boxing, if you study the history of the sport, there's a long history of talking about the curses openly. And in fact, the Muhammad Ali Act in the United States requires it, and it's to prevent the powerful side ripping off the side without power or underpaying. And it feels like Joshua was not used to the transparency or seemed bothered by it. And then, I saw him quoted saying, when I fought Klitschko, we didn't discuss money. Well, I can bet you it was 50-50 when you fought Klitschko, and so, I'm sure you would like us to quiet first to offer and praise him publicly, but no, we don't have a problem with being transparent. We don't think it's disrespectful or trashy. What have they got to hide? Who cares? People know what the public and the fans will be the judge of what they think a fair ratio is. And they need to bear in mind that Parker is an unbeaten world champion who started boxing at age 4 years old with his dad, and the hard yards for 20 years, earned that championship belt, and the unification happens once every 10 years. And, Parker's happy to let Joshua have 2/3 roughly and get barely over a third. And Joshua seems miffed or uncomfortable that we're talking about what is a fair pay ratio, and we're talking about his chin. But that's our job. And then he's got these PR companies advice, and then he starts talking about comparing himself to Federer, and then I think Muhammad Ali was mentioned. Look, those men had 20 years at the top of their game. Federer unified, in his sport, he unified in a sense. He won all the Grand Slam tennis titles. He didn't say, I'm not going to play Wimbledon because I want more percentage. And so I don't think Joshua should be talking about those other sports stars or other sports. When he's in the sport of boxing, in boxing it's normal to talk about what's a fair pay rate and not to cover it up. And it's normal to analyse the opponent's weaknesses, such as his dodgy chin. And he seems almost, he accused Parker of trying to demonise him. What the hell is he talking about? That doesn't make sense. We're not trying to demonise him, we're just stating fact. And the thing is, he's not used to it, because he's powerful, Sky Sport are powerful, his PR companies are powerful, and the media tiptoe around these things without holding him to account.
Very interesting point you're making there. Do you feel that because you're from New Zealand, if you were in America, maybe, that they're kind of trying to palm you off and sort of like, you know what, you're from New Zealand, you're the WBO champion, just take what you're given and be happy with that?
100%. The initial offer had that. The initial offer was very much a quiet behind closed doors. Here's what we'll pay you. And then they said that Parker doesn't have a profile in the UK and that the fans aren't calling for the fight. Guess what? They were right. So we've gone and fixed that, haven't we? We thought, okay, then we'll give Parker a profile in the UK, and that's part of the reason we do a lot of media. And then we'll create a rivalry by pointing out Joshua's weaknesses that no one else has been willing to come at quite as hard. So fast forward to now Parker does have a big profile in the UK, and now everyone's debating who wins. And, they were brainwashed. A lot of British fans were brainwashed thinking Joshua was unbeatable and Adonis, this big monthly guy, and no one really talked about the times he's been flattened in training, and they weren't aware that Parker's never ever been off his feet, not once in his life. And so we're pointing that out to create the rivalry. And what's happening is over time the fans are starting to understand who Joseph Parker is. They start to understand he's unbeaten and has earned the WBO belt. They start to understand he's got a granite chin and he likes guys to come forward. Joshua's the perfect style for Joseph Parker. But Huey Fury was the opposite. People don't understand how difficult Huey Fury is. He's a skilled, technical defensive fighter. He made Joseph look bad. He'll make anyone look bad, right? Joshua's the opposite. He's perfect for Parker. If they're trading, it's a chin test. And Parker's got a granite chin and Joshua's got arguably a bit of a glass jaw. So it's a 50-50 fight at best. We're educating the market on that, and we're creating a rivalry. A lot of Joshua fans hate us. That's all part of the game, and they're calling for the fight. And so we're doing our job. It's called promotion. In fact, we're doing more to promote the damn thing that Joshua or Hearn are. So we could quite rightly demand more money. I mean, I see Wilder's demand 50-50. We're at a respectful 65-35, 65 to Joshua, and we're doing all the work to build up the fight. So, we're at a deadlock because they don't want to close any percentage points.
Okay.
It's pathetic.
Okay. Let's wind things back a bit. I'm trying to bring some sort of relation. When Martin was the IBF champion, Charles Martin, he was the IBF champion. Yeah. He looked like he was trying to find the highest bidder, and the impressions from boxing fans, those in the know, felt that belt was bought. Now, question number one to you. We're straight talking.
By Joshua.
Yeah, by Joshua. Yes. Well, not by Joshua, but by his team.
Yeah.
Now, with the WBO belt, do you feel that you're being treated in a similar manner as Charles Martin was? And the difference between Charles Martin and yourselves is that you're saying, no, we're not just going to give you a belt and fall over. We actually believe that we can unify. Is that the difference?
Well, first of all, Joseph Parker earned the belt the hardest way possible in a small market that's not big on boxing, where there's a lot less money, starting from nothing. He toiled for years, as did his trainer and the promotion team, to earn that belt the hardest way possible, and earned it. And that gives you massive self-belief. He's never been beaten. He's never been off his feet. So, and he does want to unify them. We're not all talk. The proof that we want to unify is the fact that we've dropped down to 35%. And that shows confidence. And we believe we can win. We're not demanding a rematch clause. They are. They want a rematch clause as an insurance policy against losing, because that doesn't show much confidence. If they're confident, what do we need the rematch clause for? So we do want to unify. And the other thing is, we don't see it as him trying to buy the belt off us. We see it as that Parker has earned the belt the hard way, and he'll be disrespectful to the sport to allow them to lowball us, and as part of their narrative, and not demand respectable. Now, we're not being greedy. I think anyone that knows a bit about boxing would say that if a voluntary is getting around 20% and a mandatory 25 to 30, unification of two unbeaten, hungry young champions, which only happens once a generation, maybe 35%. I mean, we'd be disrespecting ourselves by accepting less, and they're disrespecting the sport by trying to pay less and cover it up behind closed doors, as they have been with other opponents. We're not desperate. Parker has had 2 or 3 paydays in the early millions. He's not desperate for the money. He desperately would like to unify, and the only thing holding it up is fear and greed on the Joshua side. Like, Joshua's probably already made a few $100 million. So there are no excuses. Like, when I say fear, Joshua is scared of losing to Parker because no one's ever. One thing rattling someone, don't rattle them when you're telling the truth. And when he's getting direct messages from Parker saying, you've got a dodgy jaw, a glass jaw potentially, and I've never been dropped. That's true. And that'll be going around in Joshua's head thinking, gee, if we're trading, and then secondly, on the money side, being transparent about it, in fairness, they're not used to it. And so, we do want to unify, and to make things worse, Joshua opened the year talking about 2018, claiming his goal was to unify. I'll quote Joshua, it's not about the money, it's about legacy. I want to unify. Wilder and Parker, they're the guys who want to fight. It's not about the money, right? And then neither fight, Wilder nor Parker, is any closer because it is about the money. And even when Parker's willing to accept Eddie over a third and give him a rematch clause, he still doesn't want to step up and take the fight.
Okay.
So it's just total hypocrisy. It's embarrassing. If I was anti-Joshua, I'd be ashamed.
Right.
And I know and I think all that Federer with Hamilton stuff has been fed to him by PR.
Yep.
PR people that don't understand boxing.
We get that. Now, there's loads of questions that people have got to ask. First and foremost, in terms of location, there had been stories that you had flown in to the UK to negotiate with Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, and that the deal was being finalized. Is this true?
Absolutely not. We're willing to compromise. We want to unify. We have given permission. They're sort of stonewalling. I've signaled them that I will not forward the fight until they tell me they're willing to compromise. And to date, they haven't. So that's untrue. We're no closer.
So wait. In terms of closeness, people are saying the deal is almost done, finalized. So in your mind, in terms of percentage, where are you in terms of this negotiating? 50%, 55%, 45%, 95%? Where are you?
We're willing for Joshua to have 65%, nearly double the pay.
No, not the money. Not the money. I'm talking about
to
the deal. Yeah, how close are we to the deal?
So you can't find the wrong person to ask, because I'm not the one holding it up. I'll do the deal tomorrow. But people you need to ask are Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. But the other thing I've noticed, I think it's hard to get them on the line. They don't do much media. And when they do, it's carefully contrived. Joshua, carefully contrived, scripted PR stuff. I imagine Joshua's not the sort of guy that gets into them too often. And every time he does open his mouth, he says bizarre things. It's like this old Mugabe stuff, superior race. Now, saying Tucker's trying to demonize him. Like, to me, they're signs he suffers delusions of grandeur. And that's when, even though he's new to the title, and he's talking about Ali and Foreman and Lennox Lewis and that, or Federer, people who've had a lifetime at the top of their game, he ain't there yet. He ain't halfway there. So that's delusions of grandeur. And then there's delusions of persecution, where he's saying Parker's trying to demonize him. How so? All Parker said is that he's getting flattened a lot of time in training, which is a fact, and that 35% a fair ratio is unification.
Okay.
Fact.
Okay, fine.
There's no demonizing going on.
Fine. Okay, so there is another champion out there, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. Why don't you just leave Joshua alone and go for Deontay Wilder? He's a WBC champion, a more prestigious belt. Pick up the belt against Wilder and then come back and fight Joshua. What about that?
Yeah, that's a fair point. So my job as a promoter, and I mentioned we've already made Parker, and even made Parker superstar in New Zealand. Our job is to make him famous globally. Now, Joshua's a big name. Joshua's PR machine has done a wonderful job of giving him a profile around the world and a perception that he's unbeatable. And so by taking it to Joshua in the way we are, we're building Joseph globally. If we went after Wilder, it wouldn't have quite the same impact. yet. And so from an analytical, logical, promotional, business point of view, it makes sense to go after Joshua because, one, it builds Joseph up in the media, it builds a rivalry, and even if the fight doesn't happen with Joshua, we've still done a good job of making Joseph a big name in the UK in particular, so it makes sense.
Okay.
And if the fight happens, it happens.
So in that case, then if you can't get Joshua, why don't you fight Dillian White or Tony Bellew? Those are two fights you could get and fight and make some more money.
It's not a case of if we can't. It's not a case of if we can't get Joshua. It's a case of does Joshua break his word out of fear and greed and take a voluntary? And if he does, will the media hold him to account? Because you can't say, I want to fight, not enough money, I want wild old Parker, then be too greedy to give Parker 35% and too scared of fear and greed, and then go to take a voluntary. And you'd like to think the media and the fans would say, hang on a minute, and hold him to account. I think we've made enough noise that it'll be hard for them to do that. So the pressure's on Joshua. We fight Wilder for terms of rights. We had loose fight. I had a phone conversation with Al Hayden 6 months ago. There's been some messages between third parties on potential fights and some numbers discussed, and it's always an option by Wilder and probably in Las Vegas. But for the moment, I mean, I'll be honest. I think Wilder might be a bit tougher than Joshua, but that doesn't mean we shy away from it. We back Joseph to beat any heavyweight, including Wilder. But we think Joshua is a bit built up. Like, we don't think he's as good as the perception is. So we see it as like not quite taking candy from the baby, but close to it.
Okay, so what about Lucas Brown? Why won't you fight Lucas Brown?
Yep,
that's a great fight. Australia, New Zealand.
It's good fight regionally. Be one of the biggest trans-Tasman Australasian boxing events in history. And Brown's good to work with. Like, he shoots from the lip, very promotable, unbeaten, has been #1. Respect for him. He's got a big punch, and that's a fight that will happen. And we're close to terms on that anyway. So, like, if Joshua out of fear and greed shies away from Parker, and he's obviously shying away from Wilder, and instead, like, sort of walks away with his tail between his legs and pays some voluntary 10% or less, 7%. But the days of being able to do that are running out, because the fans will start. If he's at a point where he has to step up, or people start to think that he is all hype and talk.
Okay, fair enough. There are the questions. The pay-per-view numbers for the last fight that was on YouTube. Do you think that helped Brand Parker, or do you think that hurt Brand Parker?
Neither, because Parker and our team were the promoter. Parker did the job and won the fight on points against a very difficult opponent. The promoter was Nick Hennessy of Hennessy Sports and the Fury side. And so they're responsible for broadcast arrangements. That's a matter put to them. But, it is difficult. I feel for the Furies. In the UK, I look, with broadcasting and dates, it's sometimes difficult to get on mainstream big TV. And there's a lot of viciousness and competitiveness among promoters and networks. And so I think like Tyson Fury, Huey Fury, the Furies have, I think there's agendas at play to try and make their lives difficult by other promoters and networks, etc. And that's sad to see, because I think that, take Tyson Fury, for example, he's very straight up and honest and good for the sport. I don't think he was given the respect that he fully deserved when he became the linear champion and beat Klitschko. He did the boxing world a favour, and I think that there's a lot of sort of conceit and power base and agendas at play in British boxing. And in a way, I see us, like the Fury side, and we're the underdog, taking it to the man and making no apologies by calling out bullshit when we see it.
So the stuff that Eddie Hearn's been saying, how much truth is there in what he's been saying, and how much of it is fabricated?
Which stuff?
Well, he's saying stuff about money and you guys not wanting to negotiate or not, want to come to the table. You're scared and all this sort of stuff. So,
No. We want to unify. We'll let them have a rematch clause in case they're worried about losing. We've been very clear and open about our terms, which is the opposite approach to the Joshua approach, who tries to do things secretly, cover things up. And we're just straightforward, open and clear. And so the pressure's on Joshua to live up to his word and make a fair deal and then give fans what they want. Simple as that.
Fair enough. So moving forward, so if you can't get the Joshua fight, you will go and fight Lucas Brown then?
We've got our promotional partners, Bob Aaron, and he's got a lucrative offer to go to China in the works. And Bob's been around a long time. I think Bob Aaron turned 86 today. It's his birthday. He's got Lomachenko tomorrow. And when you're 86, you've done as well as Bob has. You don't need to bullshit. And so he's got a very solid, good offer for China. Then there's Lucas Brown as well, which we like. And there's a few others. And so, we're not without options. And we have enough self-respect that we will go elsewhere if Joshua is willing to humiliate himself by running away from Wilder and Parker.
I have to say to you, I know that Joshua is the cash cow. Let's be honest. He's the guy making the most money in the heavyweight division at the moment. But if it's about unification and Parker's got he's got a granite chin, as you said. He's never been dropped.
Yeah.
Amateur or pro, never been on the deck. Why not fight Wilder? You get 2 belts. You get the prestigious WBC belt. You got the WBO belt. Then that brings you back to the table with Joshua with more belts, beating Wilder as champion, gone to America and done it. And then you're at the table, aren't you? You've done something that Joshua didn't want to do. Does that not? Go ahead.
You're right. You're right. Wilder's an option, and if the terms are right, we'd fight Wilder. But if we did, we'd then be demanding 50-50 from Joshua. So Joshua and Lynch should be aware of that. And we go like I've said to them that the longer this goes, the more I'm asked for. So we're at 35 now. If we go take a voluntary against say Lucas Brown and they do, and then we're negotiating again, it's not going to be 35. We're going to be up to 37 or 8. And then goes another 6 months, I'll be at 40%. Why? Because we're building the fight and our value's going up. So Joshua is smart to do the deal now because I promise him that the longer it goes, we're going to be up 50-50 if it goes another year. And the other thing, strategically, it's smart for us to fight Joshua because he's the biggest name in the heavyweight boxing, and we think we beat him, and that'll make Joseph a global superstar, especially when a lot of brainwashed fans think Joseph has no chance. It'd be like when Douglas knocked out Tyson. And I mean, in a way, we see Joshua as the Ronda Rousey boxing, like a big bubble of hype that then got burst. Or Lee Harrison, that's how we see Joshua. And so for us, there's so many positives of fighting him. Obviously, the money's good. We think we win and unify. We shock the world, and Joseph becomes global superstar. Then there'd probably be a rematch with Joshua, which we believe we'd win again. And then we'd have a look at Wilder and probably go straight into Wilder because we do want to unify. We reckon there's more dignity and respect into trying to unify and fail than not trying to at all. And under the Klitschko era, there wasn't enough of the best fighting the best. And that's the other thing. That's the other reason why Joshua shouldn't talk about Federer and people like that, because Federer played everyone, all comers, and he won all the majors, and he never shied away. And tennis were great rivals, like Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe, and they were at each other's throats in the media and on court, and they had great rivalry. And right now, great rivalry is possible in boxing with Wilder, Joshua, Parker, Tyson Fury, etc. But they're not happening. Anthony Joshua is preventing these rivalries from playing out.
Okay.
because I mean maybe Wilder's unreasonable at 50-50. I think that Wilder probably isn't worth 50 there. Yet we are very reasonable at where we're at with the 35-65.
Okay. All right. Now, I'll be honest with you. From what I'm hearing so far, I'm hearing a lot of figures. I'm hearing a lot of money. I'm hearing a lot of we want this money and they all want my money. I'm not hearing a lot of that. You know what? We'll bite the bullet. We'll go for Wilder. We'll take the title of Wilder and we'll come for Joshua after. So I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing the sort of we're going to go for Joshua because he's the biggest name in boxing. And he'll make us the biggest amount of money. And boxing fans are listening and thinking, is it really about selling the belt? Is it really about fighting Joshua to actually believe they win?
I don't think Wilder wants to fight Parker. He's not coming after Parker.
Well, I heard.
Fight voluntaries. The strategy will be fight voluntaries and try fight Joshua.
But
down the track, close to 50-50. So we can't make a fight with Wilder unless he fights us.
With all due respect, David, I remember before the Stavern fight, Wilder was going around calling everybody out who's saying, I want to fight Joseph Parker. We're going to unify. I want to fight, I'll fight Joshua. I want to unify. We don't need to fight Stavern. We'll fight for the unification. He didn't want to fight Stavern. He was looking for unifications. And there was talk in the media that Wilder and Parker camps were talking. Now I'm hearing something different. So
no. There's always chatter going on, but you must remember, Parker our goal was to win the world title, and we did. So our strategy up to December last year, when Parker beat Andy Ruiz, was to win the world title. So you can't criticise our decision because we did win the world title, and now Parker's world champion.
Of course.
And now he would fight. He'll fight anyone, including Wilder, but both parties have to want the fight, and the terms have to be right. We're making a conscious choice to go after Joshua. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's in our interest to do so, and that's the business we're in. And it's not about money. And we've proven that by dropping our ask from the 50-50 the Wilder's at down. So we've proven that we're willing to make concessions financially and back our man.
Okay, that's fair play. I've got to ask you these questions, Dave, because I understand you guys are the underdog coming in. And if people don't ask you these hard questions, all these tough questions, then people will think, no, they'll keep believing the Joshua story. They'll keep believing the Eddie Hearn story. So somebody's got to come and say to you, ask you some hard questions, say, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys want the Joshua fight. We want to know why you want the Joshua fight and find out between Joshua's camp and your camp, who's telling the fibs and who's telling the truth. And let's see if we can make the fight happen. So if media don't ask you the right questions or probing questions, then we don't get the answers we need to then go back and ask the opposite, that being Matchroom and Joshua and Hearn. We can't ask them pressurizing questions because we're not getting the questions being asked by the rival promoter. So it's not me being disrespectful or rude here, but I am pushing because we're trying to find out where everything is, because there's a lot of stuff in the media, as you appreciate. Like tonight, I mean, I told you something that people said you were in the UK negotiating with Eddie Hearn. You said that's not true. The fight's almost done. Yeah. Where did I hear that from?
I wish more media. I wish the mainstream media would ask the hard questions you're asking, because that's their job. And in a way, some of the stuff about Joshua reads like PR rather than journalism. And so I actually appreciate your approach. It's one of the reasons I'm quite happy to do the interviews with people that will ask the hard questions and print the truth.
Well, okay. For the next question I'm going to ask, again, this is not being disrespectful, but this is something that a lot of fans, particularly fans that are from Tyson Fury or Huey Fury fans, or people who are from the UK, they felt that it was odds on that when you went to points, a lot of people didn't feel that Parker won the fight. They felt that Huey won the fight. That's what a lot of people felt. Now, they felt that this happened because there was already a deal, basically in blood. There was a deal done already that Parker would face Joshua next. It was like it was going to happen. That was the deal. And there was, because you guys were sort of negotiating with the Hearns, and there was a little bad feeling, people feeling, hold on, you negotiate with Hearns, or with Matchroom, but you ain't even dealing with Huey Fury. So people thought, well, this deal was probably underhanded done. The fight with Huey was, in my opinion, not very impressive from Parker's standpoint. If you're trying to sell him, because he was catching shadows all night long, and you even admit it yourself, it wasn't a great performance. But because of the technical skills of Huey Fury, but now we're now hearing that something different. Oh, we negotiated, but he's not coming through. So is it true that there was some sort of deal done beforehand, before the Huey Fury fight? Or is this just, again, rumors, conspiracy theories, and there's no truth to it?
The only good deal done before the Fury fight was the one between me and the Furies. I developed a good rapport with Peter Fury in particular, and it's hard when you've dealt with people before. We've phone conversations, and we sort of trusted each other enough. And there's a lot of promoters and other agendas at play, but and a lot of doubters, a lot of people said that Fury fight wouldn't happen. They said the Furies dishonest, wouldn't put the money up. It proved a lot of people wrong. The fact the fight had the money went up, and that was down to the deal that was struck between our side of the Furies camp and trust under difficult circumstances. The suggestion there was any deal with Hearn and Joshua is preposterous and total conspiracy theory. It's up there with George Bush bombing the World Trade Center. Absolutely did not happen at all, and we wouldn't be so arrogant as to think we're going to win the fight before the fight. And Hearn wouldn't. He'd never make a deal in advance like that when they hold all the cards. Joshua, they're not going to go sign away a future possibility without knowing what's going to happen. So it doesn't make any sense on any level. In terms of the fight against Huey Fury, we thought Huey fought a very technically good fight. He's got very good footwork, and he's a difficult guy to beat. No one calls out Huey Fury. No one wants to fight him because they know he might steal a victory or make you look shit. And so we thought it would be an ugly fight, and we're going to their hometown with, largely UK officials. And so we were worried, I have to say. We thought we won the fight. I wouldn't call it close, but I wouldn't say that Joseph was all over him either. We thought we won the fight, and we were pleased with the officiating. Was, in our view, solid, except for one of the judges from memory. Look, there was a review after, and the review was dismissed. They had the WBO, I think, had some experts or whatever look at it and dismissed any suggestion that it went the wrong way, because Joseph was the man coming forward and putting the pressure on. And I think there's a principle in professional boxing, at least, that if you're going to win the fight, you have to at least try to win the fight by throwing punches, proper punches, and not that Huey didn't, but that Joseph was the one that he did, and he looked frustrated at times. He probably pressed too hard, looking for a knockout, and it made it look like Huey was sort of like the matador to the ball, or skillfully evading whatever. But the reality is Joseph would put the pressure on, loading up, bringing the fight, and did enough to win it. And so I think we should, and we've got a very good rapport with the Fury camp. We respect them, they respect us. I speak to Tyson Fury now and then as well, and Peter. And so I think we'll just put that one, we'll consign that one to history, and we look into the future. And I'm sure Joseph fight and beat Joshua, then out of respect for Tyson Fury, because I believe that Joseph has the belt that Tyson Fury vacated. It will be respectful and a sort of a gentleman thing to give him a crack back at the belt if and when he's ready. And so you could see a potential Joseph Parker versus Tyson Fury fight sometime in the future, even though they're friends. This is business, and that could sell out a venue like Old Trafford.
Absolutely. So wait, let's go back, because I did ask you a question, and you said it was like the conspiracy theory with George Bush and the Twin Towers. A lot of people believe that was an inside job. But beside the point, the question I asked you is not a question that is not beyond the reach of boxing fans. Boxing fans really believe there's a conspiracy with this. They actually really believe there's a conspiracy. Even more so because of what's happened with Tyson Fury, Tyson being banned, and there's a possibility now that if they find him guilty, he's going to be banned for 4 years. and there's a lot of people feel there's dark forces at work and against Tyson Fury. So conspiracy theories do float up and down. But if we don't bring these conspiracy theories to you, Dave, and other people within the boxing circles, then we don't know whether these things are true or not. So we have to ask the question.
Yeah, no, Donald, and the biggest conspiracy theory in the sport of boxing is that Anthony Joshua is some unbeatable godlike creature up there with the next Lennox Lewis and so on. That is the biggest conspiracy theory. Because when you look at the facts, he's fought nearly all of his opponents had more losses than wins. You know, the big name on his resume is aging over Klitschko for a year and coming off a loss. And Klitschko flattens him and nearly beats him. But aging hasn't fought for a year, coming off a loss, nearly beats him. Take Klitschko out, and then you give proper scrutiny to that resume. It's padded and hyped up. And then for people to be talking about him at those echelons of those other greats, that is a conspiracy theory. And we're having a bit of fun pointing that out. And at the same time, building Parker's profile in the UK.
Okay.
And the fight will be back. I mean, the fight will happen if and when Josh was ready to be reasonable and fair on the right ratio for unification.
Okay, let's talk about that press conference, because that press conference that you had. I mean, I got told about the press conference, so I said, "Nah, they didn't have a press conference today." So I went and looked at the press conference. And I put it on. It wasn't your traditional press conference, and I appreciate you, Dave, that you do things that are very unorthodox to get the attention of the public, and I appreciate that, and I understand that the role of the promoter is to get the attention of the public. Do you feel that press conference elevated Joseph Parker? Do you feel that it promoted Joseph in his best light? Do you feel that it did what you wanted it to do, or do you think it backfired?
You mean the one where we talked about Joshua's chin recently?
Yes, I found it quite interesting.
Okay. So first of all, in New Zealand, that press conference, we run about 100 on there. Never had any comments or criticism from New Zealand media, and we didn't on that occasion either, because it was run in the same large office as every other one, and it had a packed media turnout, and there were no comments because it looked good and it made sense. But what happened is, and I didn't know this till after, that the footage that you saw outside of New Zealand, the EU and Australia or the UK, was captured through an iPhone, a handheld iPhone that was wobbling a bit, and so maybe it looked a little grainy or unusual. And so you had a situation where in New Zealand it looked perfectly normal, and there was no mention of the handling of it in the media here. But in the UK, you had a situation where it might have looked a little grainy. But I'll tell you what really happened. At the press conference, the two most important points discussed were, one, Joshua has a dodgy chin, and half a dozen examples were provided to prove it, and then contrasted to Parker's chin that it's granite, he's never been dropped, and we offered money to anyone that could show that Parker's been dropped. And we want to create a discussion around who has a better chin, Parker or Joshua. And the second one was, what's the fair ratio for unification? I don't think worldwide unification once a generation. I don't think 10% is fair. Voluntary and 20 say mandatory, so 35%. We're trying to create a discussion around what's a fair ratio, respectful ratio. Now, what will have happened is that Eddie Hearn and Joshua will have gone into a crisis meeting with their PR companies, and they would have said, shit, we don't want to discuss the chin issue, and we don't want to discuss the money issue. How do we avoid discussing them? And they totally avoided discussing the chin, who is a better chin, and what's a fair payday or ratio for the fighters. They ignored it. And then they discussed, did the footage look a bit shaky, or was it a good press conference or a crap press conference? And the media helped them get away with it. The British media informed over them, helped them get away with evading the two important issues, and instead talking about a trivial issue of where was the press conference held, was the footage a bit shaky, which is very soft media, I mean, the media should be smart enough to see that it's a PR strategy to avoid talking about the real issues. And you know, I'll pay credit to Hearn and the PR machine for. But I'll tell you what, though, it put the damn thing on the map. So we have no regrets. Look, it wasn't perfect. It was a blunt force instrument, and we don't care that they attacked at what they perceive as our standard of press conference, because it worked. It got everyone talking. It's created a rivalry. It's the fight everyone wants to see. And did it elevate Joseph or not? It didn't. The standard press conference has no bearing on Joseph Parker as a fighter or as a man. And what will elevate Joseph is when he knocks Joshua out sometime next year and shocks the world.
I appreciate that, but the question would be, okay, now you're promoting the WBO heavyweight champion of the world, and whereas that may have been great for New Zealand, on the global stage, on the global market, Hearn and Camp would say, well, all right, that's fine, but that really, I'm just looking from a UK standpoint, not a Joshua standpoint. From a PR standpoint, from the UK, they'd say, well, look at this. They can't even run a press conference properly. Look at this press conference. And it was and they would use that.
We promoted Parker for 6 years and ran 100 with no complaints. That one probably wasn't the best. So what? We'll run another 10 in the coming year, and I'll make sure that whoever at the phone puts it on a tripod so the footage is steady, and then it'll force Hearn and Joshua to address the issues of who has a better chin and what's their payday, and so they won't be given that excuse again. People look at a moment in time. For that particular moment in time, press conference probably not the best we've ever run. And you know, every organisation that runs press conferences, most will go pretty well. One will go exceptionally well. One might be a bad day at the office. So what? It's a moment in time. The next press conference will be slick and smooth. I mean, you learn from these things. So let's stop. Like, why are we worrying about a press conference? Let's worry about Joshua's chin and whether he's a man of his word and is going to unify, and whether is 65% of the profit not enough for Joshua to live up to his word. These are the things that matter, and I can make a promise. Next press conference, make sure that the camera's steady and so that the real issues are discussed by the British media instead of trivialities.
Dave, I love you. I really appreciate you. In terms of, let's tackle two more issues rather than the Joshua thing. The British fans, you seem to have, in particular, Joshua fans, you have a real issue with them. Explain to me what your issue is with the British, the UK fans, particularly with anti-Joshua fans.
Okay, I think they are brainwashed, almost. Look, a lot of the public, I'm not saying are not that smart, and not just Joshua fans. In the world, there's probably 2 or 3%. There's probably 10 or 20% of the population that you say are fairly intelligent and think logically and analyse facts before reaching a decision. Then there's the middle, that's sort of this way, and then there's sort of like the 20% that just buy into I don't think, right? Now, I'm not saying that's all Joshua fans. Among Joshua fans, there'll be smart ones and medium and the ones that don't think much, right? But I have to say, I can't understand it because I'm getting a lot of hate mail, and a lot of it's vitriolic, threatening. It gives Joseph Parker no chance to beat Joshua, not a million years. And I can't help but think, why, if they look at the facts and they put Joseph Parker's resume of who he's fought and their records against Joshua, I think Joseph stacks up better. And they'll point to Klitschko, but he was aging, hadn't fought a year, come off a loss, and Klitschko nearly won. So if you look in that context, they're pretty well matched. Then you compare their chin. Parker's never been dropped. Joshua's been dropped at least 6 times we know about. So Parker definitely has a better chin. Then you compare their footwork. Joshua has the footwork of a tree, and he squares up like a robotic. And you start to to compare their muscles and their size. Joshua's more muscly, has a better bodybuilder physique, but that's irrelevant to boxing. So you start to compare these things, and then the thinking fan will go, yeah, maybe at first think it's a one-horse race, but when you dig deeper, it's a 50-50 fight. And so no wonder Joshua's digging his heels and not, demanding a rematch and not wanting to, argue about the money. So So what I mean is, I'm judging the Joshua fans, or a lot of them, by the hate mail I'm receiving. And it's sort of feral lynch mob, unthinking, stuff where they write Joseph off for his threats and bad grammar. And that's not, I don't think that's all the fans. And I don't want to disrespect all Joshua fans at all. I'm just saying that it's quite surprising how many people aren't analytical before forming a view.
Yes, they're called trolls. I would say, in terms of this fight, you talk about Joseph Parker's chin a lot. Who could you point to in Joseph Parker's career that punches as hard as Vladimir Klitschko?
Yeah, look, that's a good question, and I'm one of those promotions that will admit I'm not a boxing expert. I've never boxed, and I've never trained boxers, and I came in from a business point of view 7 or 8 years ago. I'm learning as I go, so that questions like that are better directed to our trainer Ken Barry or our matchmaker Stuart Duncan. But Joseph certainly come up against big punches. Guys like Anthony Ruiz punch hard. And there will be many, and I don't have the resume at my disposal, but, and Joseph sparred Klitschko, by the way. Joseph went to training with Klitschko. And
I know.
He sparred him, and he was only allowed to spar Klitschko a handful of times. And Joseph came in hard, and I think shook him up a bit, and certainly wasn't in any trouble with Klitschko or put down. And so, but again, I don't want to be evasive, I'm just being honest. That question is best put to our trainer or matchmaker who are expert on the styles of the various opponents.
I would welcome to talk to Kevin Barry. There's many questions I've got to ask him, and many questions I've got to ask your matchmaker as well. Absolutely. So after our interview, definitely we can get that on.
Set those up by text. I can set those up for you by text.
Fantastic.
Stuart will be happy to talk after.
Okay, I think I've kind of got what's the message. I do want to talk about Jeff Hunt for 5 minutes, but I want to close this. So your message to the British media, to the US media, and to the global media who will be listening to this interview, what's your message, and what is it you want from your man to make the Joshua fight happen? If Eddie Hearn, which I'm sure is listening to this, what's your message to Eddie Hearn and to the British boxing media and to those that are in control to make this fight happen, and in particular Joshua's management, because they seem to be making the calls, not Eddie?
Right, to Anthony Joshua and his management, you have grandstanded globally in the media saying that you're about unification and not about the money. Joseph Parker's side respect that. We think it's good for the sport. We share that dream. We want to unify too. Let's make it happen. We started at 50% like Wilder, which probably was a bit unreasonable because Joshua does have the bigger following. We've made all the concessions. We're now sitting at a respectable, approximately a third, just over where Joshua would get nearly double Parker. We've offered a rematch clause. There are no excuses, and we think the media need to hold Anthony Joshua to account in terms of the claims and statements he's made. That should be analysed against, what's good for the sport and what the fans want. And so we would like to think we're still at the negotiating table. We've got our phone number and our contact details, and if you signal a willingness to compromise, then we will meet face to face to see if we can make a deal.
Thank you for that. And to the UK fans, particularly the Anthony Joshua fans,
look, we hope that you'd like to see your man tested properly against a young, unbeaten champion with a granite chin. It'll be a proper test, and we'd like to think that you would like to see that test rather than a soft voluntary option.
Well, in terms of if you need to ever let us know any more information, Dave, we're here. We're straight talking. I'm going to ask you tough questions when you come on the show, so you know what to expect, okay?
Yep, no problem.
Right, Jeff Horn, he defends his title against Gary Cochran. There was a fighter before that, a British fighter he was due to fight. Can you talk to me about that?
Sorry, he was a British fighter.
He was meant to fight. He was going to fight. Jeff Horn was originally going to fight before he fought Gary Cochran.
Okay, I'm not up to speed. So the all those arrangements are being handled by our matchmaker Stuart. What I do know is that having beaten Manny Pacquiao, Horn's next fight is Gary Cochran.
Yes.
And it's this Wednesday in Brisbane, Australia. I recall there were a couple of other names in the mix.
Bradley Skeet.
And one of them was from England.
Yeah, Bradley Skeet was the guy.
Yes.
What happened with that fight?
Sorry?
What happened with that fight? How comes Bradley Skeet's not fighting? It's Gary Cochran. Was it money or something else?
I don't know. I don't want to comment about things I'm not
okay.
To speed on fully. But what I would say is, I recall people saying that Skeet's style was quite dull, is what I was told. But I'm sorry if that's off the mark, because I'm trying to go on memory here. But I do remember some talk of styles of fights that want to put on an exciting event.
Two final questions. Question number one is, if you fight Joshua, if you do get the fight with Joshua, will you be do you have any questions about testing? There are some just suggestions that have been made previously about Joshua. Are you concerned at any point in terms of fair testing, both sides?
Yeah, well, we'd expect the normal VADA testing for both boxers, and that would be contract as per usual. So, just the regular procedure.
Fantastic. And finally, will you be voting for Anthony Joshua this year for his Sports Personality of the Year?
I won't vote. Nothing against Joshua. I've just never voted on Sports Personality of the Year because I'm from New Zealand. But I think he probably does deserve it. I don't know what the criteria are, but he's maintained an unbeaten record. He's obviously beaten Klitschko there, and he's defended in front of huge crowds. He's captured the public imagination. He's good for the sport of boxing. He seems generally respectable outside of the ring, except for the odd crazy Twitter message. And I'm not sure what he's up against, but I don't think he's done anything to put a foot wrong too much. And it's certainly in a sporting context, he should well be considered for Personality of the Year. And it'll be good for the promotion as well for Joshua Parker, the Intercontinental Unification bout.
I wouldn't have brought this up, but you keep bringing it up. The Eddie Chambers, Anthony Joshua Instagram message. What are your thoughts about that, and why do you think the media have gone quiet on the whole thing between Eddie Chambers and Anthony Joshua?
Well, first of all, the media have to be careful because there's issues of defamation, etc. If he didn't in fact say it, or if his account was hacked. So whenever there's a big money maker commercially like a Joshua, and then sensitive issues like race, the media have to be very careful how they report it, and they consult lawyers. And sometimes it's safer in an age of declining advertising revenue to not talk about it or not go near it. It's a sensitive issue. I mean, on the face of it, it looks like it was real, and it was Joshua. And then it's about how you report it. And often when a guy's been built up his whole lifetime, Olympic champion, the people's champion, it's hard to be the one or the media outlet that sort of calls the emperor's new clothes, says, hey, look, the emperor's actually got their clothes on. Some people don't want to be the one. And so it got some scant coverage. But I can't help but think, if Tyson Fury had said it, I think there would have been outrage and he would have been crucified. And that's called a double standard. And that's part of what I mean when I say that it's not held to account by mainstream British media. They should have at least analysed it and asked them to respond or explain it. That didn't even happen. So it really, really was a soft whitewash by the mainstream media.
Very, very interesting. And a final word on Tyson Fury making his comeback.
I think I'd love to see him come back. I like him. I think he's straight up, a straight shooter, calls a spade a spade. He seems like a nice guy. He's the sort of guy you trust on a handshake. He's good for the sport. I think he's right up there in terms of best heavyweights in the world. Very tricky, amazing footwork for a guy that size. He'd be a tricky fight for anyone, including Parker. And I think he'd probably beat Joshua and Wilder. And so we'd like to see him come back. And if he's firing at all cylinders, along with Parker, Joshua, and Wilder, that's 4 heavyweights up there. We're in for an era of great heavyweight matches and rematches back in the good old days when Foreman, Ali, Fraser, then you had Tyson, Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, and then you had the boring Klitschko era. We're heading into an era, hopefully, of great matches, close matches, rematches, trilogies, hopefully. And so I think the current crop of time in their careers, wow, Joseph Parker and Joshua, Isaac Fury, Deontay Wilder, it's serendipitous that they sort of all risen at the same time. But now what we need is them to fight each other, and that's Anthony Joshua needs to step up and make a fight. It sounds like he doesn't want to do a deal with Wilder, so then take the Parker fight. Let's start this great era of the best fighting the best instead of worrying about money too much.
Fabulous. And China? What did China have to do with everything? I missed the China thing. You said you would negotiate about a fight in China with Bob Arum.
No, Bob Arum's working up a very solid option for us in China, but I don't want to go about that right now.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Dave Higgins, thank you so much for giving us your time on BWTM Sports Week. I hope that I didn't offend you by asking you these tough questions, but it had to be done.
I like it. In fact, I'd prefer to be asked questions. A lot of them, like I keep saying, a lot of mainstream media either don't understand the sport, or they're lazy, or they're PR flavoured, and therefore a lot of the reporting is substandard, in my opinion. When guys are given a free ride or built up or not asked hard questions, I think I'd love to hear interview Anthony Joshua and ask him hard questions. Because tell you what, when he's put under pressure to ask hard questions, sometimes bizarre things come out of his mouth.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Mr. Higgins, thank you so much for talking to BWTM Sports. It's been 2 years in the making, but we finally did it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
So there you have it, people. David Higgins of Duque Events. 2 years waiting, and we finally got him. So I don't know what to think. You know, Dave said what he's had to say. It's down to the British public. Joshua and his team with Eddie Hearn to decide whether they want to see this fight to happen. It was an interesting interview, let's put it this way. And I look forward to having Dave Higgins back on the show again. There's more questions to ask for sure. And I'm just going to keep asking questions. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed the interview. It was a bit of a special. It was a bit of a random one. But he gave me his number and I chased him up about it. Once again, thank you to Dave Higgins of Duque Events. I will definitely be trying to get Kevin Barry in and get the matchmaker in as well. I've got a ton of questions for them too, particularly Kevin Barry. Right. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave your comments as always. This is BWTM Sports, and I'm out here. Hopefully, I'll be back for the Ortiz fight in a few hours. Live commentary. See you later.